she's got one foot and daddy ain't got none. Two folks got but 5 toes, they can't walk near mine run. Rock and roll and hopping round the place, get to drinking and they wheelchair race. 5 toes clean up, no more, no less. 5 little bees, they're missing all the rest.
Thank you everyone for joining me. I'm Amira Radovic, your host. And this is Amputee Wisdom, where everyday people living with limb loss share their journeys of living with an amputation. I have with us our guest, Glenn Barfield. Glenn, thank you very much for joining us.
Sure, happy to do it.
Can you just tell us, where are you located?
So I'm located in Sammamish, Washington, which is east of Redmond, which is east of Seattle. So find Seattle on the map and just go east, past a couple of lakes, and there I am.
Oh, very nice. So all the way in the West Coast.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for taking the time to share your story. I wanted to start out with asking you, can you tell us a little bit about, what is the story behind your amputation? What was the cause for it?
So I was out on my motorbike, and I was going for a ride out in the woods, and this is when I lived out in Mason County, which is a rural county out in Washington State. And going up one of those back country roads, one of those country roads that's got trees right close to the side of the roads, and I was going uphill, and I could see up ahead of me that the road kind of leveled out. And as I got to the point where it leveled out, I realized, hey, I'm in an intersection, and then I got hit by a pickup truck.
Whoa.
And so the truck sent my body flying about 30, 35 feet. My motorcycle landed near me. Someone had stolen the stop signs from this intersection, so I didn't know that I was in an intersection until I was in the intersection. This is a common occurrence out in the country. People steal the 4x4s from stop signs and signs, and use them for fence posts and things like that. Anyway, so I looked down and I saw my leg was severed off, and training took over. I'd worked in the Navy as doing a variety of things, and I was a EMT volunteer for a while. So I just went into my training, and then some folks showed up and started helping me out, and they medvaced me over to Harborview Hospital in Seattle, and the doctor came in and said, "Hey, Mr. Barfield, I'm sorry, we can't save your leg." It's like, I already know that. Just could you please put me under, because I'm in a lot of pain at this point, and I could really, really use painkillers to just pump me full. So they did that. They did about 4 or 5 hours of surgery, cleaned me up, and then I got a prosthetic leg. And this was back in 1992, March 8th, 1992. Oh. And so the prosthetic that I had back then was the first one. They were fairly primitive, really. It was a socket with a pipe attached to a foot with a plastic cover, and it was held on with leather straps and a leather belt. It was not that much different than you would have found in like the 1800s, right? Something they used to sell through the Sears catalog back in those days.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of the story of the loss of the leg.
Wow, that's very intense. Were you the person who called the ambulance to report the accident, or were you blacked out?
I was trying to administer first aid to myself when people started showing up, and one of the people that showed up was one of the guys I worked with as a volunteer EMT. And of course, this is 1992. This is before everyone and their dog had a cell phone on them. And so what he did, he sent his wife off in his pickup truck to drive down to the nearest house and make a phone call to bring in the ambulances. So we basically just kind of held on doing first aid until the ambulances showed up. It took them about 20 minutes to get there.
So your friend was with you during the accident, or how did he know?
Yeah, he showed up. He was just driving home.
Oh, wow.
And just happened to drive by and see, like, wow, that looks like it is Glenn. Oh my gosh. So he pulled over and then flagged down some other people, and a lot of people out where I lived out in the country, they have some kind of first aid training, for camping, hiking, hunting, and a lot of them were ex-military as well. So I was fortunate that I had people around me who knew what to do and how to handle the situation.
Well, I can't even imagine like the state your mind was in right after the accident. But it was survival mode.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you've had training, you because you train, you go into that training and you work through the training. You've been, this is the step 1 thing to do. This is the step 2 thing to do. This is the step 3 thing to do. You just go into that and you go through that, and that keeps your mind from completely and totally freaking out. It kind of gets you through the situation.
Oh, wow. I just can't imagine that kind of panic, that kind of state, and going to the hospital and then the doctor telling you like, oh, we can't save your leg. I mean, you're like, yeah, I figured that out. So is it like the doctor ended up just re-amputating the leg to give you a cleaner cut, or is it just more like?
Yeah, so there's 2 types of amputation. You've got the people who lose their limb through disease, in which case it's a very carefully planned out process, and they know exactly what they're doing and what they've got, things like that, and they plan it out. And then you've got your trauma, like myself, or like those that lost their limbs through military action or accidents or things like that. In those cases, what they've got to do is like, okay, well, how bad is the bone? What can we save? What can we not save? Do we need to clean it up here? So they basically spent the time in surgery cleaning up the wound, figuring out what they could save and what muscle they could keep, and sewing it up and patching it up as best they could. And then there's the trauma from the actual accident where the limb swells up. When I first lost my leg, my stump, my residual limb, was about 5 times the size that it had been because of the swelling, because basically it's just one massive bruise essentially, right? And it just takes a long time for that kind of swelling to go down.
Yeah. How was the first year of your life right after the amputation? First month right after the amputation, how did you have to like adjust and change?
Well, I mean, you've got the hand that you've been dealt with, right? And it's like, okay, these are all the things that I've got to now figure out, and I'm not going to bother looking backwards. I'm not going to wish for something else. I've just got to move on. I've got to figure out how to do this. I've got to start thinking about how do I discipline myself to accomplish this and make things happen, and how do I do these things that normally I wouldn't even think twice about, like going upstairs with a prosthetic leg the first time. Like, wait, does anybody actually think about how they go upstairs once they've learned how to go upstairs when they're a kid? No, you don't. You just do it. But I had to think about these things and figure them out. So there's a lot of learning that has to go on. There's a lot of physical therapy. There's a lot of time spent thinking, it's like, oh, what if? And you can never let yourself do that. It's basically making yourself circle around a black hole in your life that you're just in danger of falling into and never coming out of again, right? So you've always got to be thinking, okay, where's my goals? What am I looking to do? Where am I going? How do I get there? How do I discipline myself to get there? How do I generate, just a little victory, just a little one every day, just so I can build on that to the next little tiny victory and just keep on going until one day you look back and you realize, wow, I'm here. This is awesome. I'm actually doing this. This is great. But it takes that little day to day looking for those little victories and just like, okay, this wasn't much, but this was something. I'm going to hold on to it.
In regards to the physical therapy, how long did it take for you to?
So the physical therapy, it depends a great deal on the person that's lost their limb. For some people, they've got a lot of medical issues that they've got to struggle with in addition to the amputation. So physical therapy can take months, or a year in some cases. In my case, it was actually pretty short. Once I learned the mechanics, I was able to do a lot of the physical therapy myself at home and working with my family. And I was fortunate in the fact that I was young. I was 28, healthy, strong, physically active. So I had a lot of advantages going into the situation. So for me, physical therapy was just like, I think about a month.
Wow.
And then a lot of it was just, just repetitive of that physical therapy at home, or just walking around, like going shopping. And just like, okay, my doctor told me I should swing my leg like this. Okay, I'm just going to walk up and down the shopping aisle as, the shopping's getting done. I'm just going to practice, right? It was just a matter of making myself do those things on a regular basis.
So you were in a prosthetic within a month after your amputation?
Yeah, they got me into a prosthetic. Let me see what it was. It was actually about 6 weeks after I lost my leg because the swelling had gone down enough. And when you first lose your leg, especially through a traumatic injury, there's a lot of swelling that goes down fast. So the socket they fitted me with, I was shrinking out of it like within a month's time, and then again in a month's time, and again in a month's time. Slowly, it slows down to the point where we're getting a new socket, say once every 4 months, and then 6 months, and then once every year. Now I'm at a point now where I normally get a new prosthetic made once about every 2 to 3 years, because the socket is a non-dynamic thing. It's fixed, it's static, whereas the residual limb, the stump, is dynamic. As you age, the muscles, the bones, they kind of shift and move. You shrink, you gain a little weight, you lose a little weight. Other dynamics in your body changes the fit. So once every 2 or 3 years, you pretty much got to go in and go get a new fitting done so that you can, continue to walk without being in too much pain.
Okay. And so now you don't get fitted for orthopedic as often.
Right. Yeah, like I said, now every 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned about how after the amputation, you have to really focus on the little goals, the just little things, walking up the stairs, learning to swing your leg, going through therapy, just not think about like, how am I going to get this done just one day at a time? How were you able to really accomplish this? Because sometimes you just say it, but how are you able to get your mindset really just ready for the you're going to be?
So this is there's the easiest thing that I found to do, and the most simplistic thing, was literally just to write down a list with little check boxes of the things I wanted to try and get done in a day. And it's like, okay, just check them off. And if I couldn't get something to that day, I just wrote it down for the next day. Because then each day I could look and it's like, okay, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to relax for a while, I'm going to have a cold beer and revel in those 4 things I got done. I mean, sometimes they were major things. Most of the time, though, they were small. But it's having that list in front of my face that I could look at and see that's like, look, that's checked off. I did that, right? And like I said, then most of the time, they weren't really big things. They were really small things. But there were things I could look at and say, yep, I got that done. And because I got that done, I can do this other thing, or I can progress on another step to another goal. And eventually that kind of built to the point now where I go hiking up mountains, I go backpacking, I go, backcountry kind of stuff. If you check out my videos, Amputee Outdoors on YouTube, I've got a whole bunch of videos that I've done where I've gone out snowshoeing, I've gone out camping and hiking up mountains. And that is all impressive, but it all started with those little day-to-day checklists of just, okay, here's my list of 5 things today. And then the next day, building on that and building on that and building on that. And that's the process that you have to go with when you first start out as an amputee.
What type of things were on the list? Like if you have to name 3, it's not like big, tremendous thing like sprinting.
Right. Some things like figuring out the best way to go swimming, figuring out a best way to set up the shower, figuring out what kind of shoes work best with a prosthetic I've got. Going through it's like when I lost my leg, I had, 15, 20 different boots, shoes, sandals. I remember one of the things I had on the list was go through all my shoes and figure out which ones I can still wear. And then the next day, go to the store and buy one pair of shoes that now works with my prosthetic. Because I found when I did the first one that most of my shoes didn't work for me properly anymore. So then the new thing to do on my checkoff list was go buy new shoes. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's those kinds of little things. And yeah, going up the stairs. So I broke it into 2 parts. Learning how to walk upstairs and learning how to walk downstairs. Because I found that walking upstairs, yeah, I got that checked off. Walking downstairs, a little more tricky. Because you don't realize that as you're walking, you're actually falling down the stairs as you step. And you do that with a prosthetic you're learning on, and that can actually be really kind of dangerous. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, you don't think about it, but you do when you first walking on a prosthetic. It's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But yeah, that was just one of my checkoff lists. Learn how to walk downstairs.
It's funny that you mentioned shoes.
Yeah.
have to buy like one pair of shoes, which I know you can't buy, or is it just like I have to throw all my shoes out and get new shoes because it has to fit my prosthetic? Is that?
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. So your prosthetic is normally for, most prosthetics are made for a 5/8 to a 3/4 inch heel, because your ankle is dynamically changing without a moment's thought. It just dynamically changes depending upon the shoes you're wearing, the terrain you're on, things like that. The prosthetic, it can't do that. So you've got to have a pair of shoes that are set for that foot. I found out, like, okay, my cowboy boots, they're shot. I got, give those away. A couple of pairs of boots that I had, my flip flops don't work anymore. Okay. So apparently I need to make a trip and go buy some different kinds of shoes here that fit the prosthetic that I've got, right? And I did actually have a foot once called a Proprio foot. I forget who makes it. And it did have the ability to dynamically change depending on the heel height and the terrain. But I broke it a lot. I broke it once a month and eventually gave up on it. And that's the one thing that for a lot of amputees is finding the right kind of prosthetic that works for your lifestyle. So the prosthetic that I've got now is the Sir Cheetah Explorer. It's a very, very simplistic foot, ridiculously simplistic. However, it is also very, very powerful. It's got a lot of spring. It's got a lot of action. But it's the perfect foot for me. It's not the perfect foot for someone else. All my shoes are basically, selected because they work with that foot. And that's what you've got to figure out. It's like, what's the right kinds of shoes for me?
Those are certain expenses you wouldn't really think about after you've gotten an amputation, or if you're going to get an amputation, that, I have to think about throwing my shoes out and finding the right shoes that would fit my lifestyle. Someone had mentioned pants. One of my interviewees, I believe it was Bill Spiker, had mentioned he had to find certain pants with zippers or certain little things like that you don't really think about to make sure
Shorts. I do have pants. I'm wearing trousers now, but yeah, shorts are mostly what I wear. I mean, even in the wintertime here in Washington State, I wear shorts simply because it's more convenient. If I need to, swap out a sock or put on socks or take off a sock in my suspension sleeve, in my socket, having to drop my pants at work and do that is just not acceptable. HR would come around and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Barfield, you keep taking your pants off at work to fix your leg. Could you not do that anymore?" So that was an awkward conversation at one time. But anyway, no, I'm kidding. I never did that. So yeah, shorts. You just think, okay, well, what's more practical? Shorts. I'd wear a kilt, but my wife won't let me wear a kilt.
I can't even when it's cold, wearing shorts, I guess you have to do what you got to do.
Well, I've only got one leg that's going to get cold. So no, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, little things you take for granted, little things you have to do. So you mentioned, I just want to quickly go back to the therapy and get adjusted to life. How did this affect your family, your wife? Do you have children?
Yeah, so at the time I was unmarried. My brother, my mother and father, they lived close by. So they were they were a great support group. I had some, my really good friends were helping me out. And it was very hard for my parents. Because I mean, no parent wants to see their child suffer that kind of injury. I mean, it broke their hearts. It's hard to even now think about it. It's been 28 years, and even now it's still hard to think about for them. And it's something that's still, they couldn't have done anything, but they wish they could have to prevent it from happening. So that was hard for them. That was difficult. My brother, he's my brother. Like, dude, get a leg on. We got work to do. What are you limping for, man? Come on, let's go. Like, I mean, he was being my brother, right? And he knew that, what I wanted to be able to do is do and be what I was. And so he kind of, pushed me a little bit to be what I was. Acknowledging the fact that, hey, yeah, you've got a fake leg on now, but that doesn't mean you can't really, do stuff, right? come on, let's go do stuff.
Mm.
So he kind of pushed me as, as a brother would, right? My family, friends, a lot of my friends, it was that, that first kind of getting together and that awkwardness of like, how do I prevent myself from staring at the thing that I want to stare at, which is your prosthetic leg, right? There's that awkward time. It's like, okay, look, Kevin, Keith, Henry, let me just take my leg off and you can just hold it and you can just stare at my leg and just, let's get this over and done with, guys. Just here. And, but it works, right? And it works. And they can get that, because everyone's curious. I still see it. I see it in little children. I see it in adults, even today, where they're just like, gosh, I'm trying not to stare. I'm trying really hard not to stare, but I really want to know how that works, right? It is a human curiosity, and it's a natural thing. So I often tell people, it's like, hey, if you want to ask me a question, that's fine. We can sit down over there and on that bench, and you can ask me all your questions. It's cool. A lot of people will say, really? Can I? Because they do want to learn. They're curious. They're interested.
It is human curiosity. How old were you when you lost your limb?
28.
28. So okay, so you're a pretty young man.
Yep.
Had your life ahead of you, which you still do. But
yeah.
I can imagine the how that affects your mindset, right? Because especially when we're in our 20s, we think we're invisible, right? We think.
Oh yeah. I was in the prime of my life. Young, healthy, vitals, like, dude, I can do anything. There is nothing that can stop me. And then something like that happens. It's like, you know what? Okay, yes, things can delay me.
Yeah.
I'm still going to do these things. I'm going to be slowed down, but I'm still going to do these things. And if I hit something that I just simply cannot do, okay, great. I found a boundary. I found the edge. I'm going to see how many times I can get to that edge, and if I can maybe push that edge just a little bit. So yeah, you can't just look at it like, dude, I've lost my leg, done. That's it. It's over. If you look at that, you now have two disabilities: the physical one and the mental one. Right? You gotta look at it like, okay, look, I used to do these things. Let's see if I can still go do these things. I'm gonna go as far as I can. Find out where that edge is, find out where that boundary is, find out where that limit is, and I'm just going to push that a little bit and see how far I can take it. Because like I said, if you give it up right off the bat with, hey, I've lost my leg, don't expect me to do much, you're done.
Well, Mama, she's got one foot and Daddy ain't got none. Two folks got but 5 toes, they can't walk near mine run. Rock and rollin', hopping round the place, get to drinking in the wheelchair race. 5 toes clean up, no more, no less. 5 little bees, they're missing all the rest.